From AI to automation to groundbreaking innovations in sustainability, this session, ladies and gentlemen, is now going to dive into how the fusion of steel and silicon is forging the future of India's steel industry, driving smarter and more sustainable growth. We're absolutely honored to have a gentleman with over 36 years of experience when it comes to mining and metals industry. He's been at the forefront of Tata Steel's growth, both organically and inorganically. Under his leadership, Tata Steel has embraced innovation to lead the way in global manufacturing. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're absolutely delighted to have with us today Mr. TV Narendran, CEO and Managing Director of Tata Steel Limited. This session is going to be hosted by Mr. Ajay, who's been instrumental in shaping Accenture's vision for India. So let's also welcome Mr. Ajay Viji, Senior Country Managing Director at Accenture India.
Welcome, Narendran, and thank you very much for being here. It's truly a pleasure to share this stage with you. So, as I was telling you earlier, this is the second day of the NTLF 2025, the 33rd edition. The theme has been tech-driven and human-centered, and I think that ties in very well with the theme that we have today, from steel meets silicon and as it goes. But before we go there, Tata House overall, Tata Steel as well, it's truly an institution. It's not just a company or an organization. Decades behind it, brings pride, brings a whole lot of nationalism behind us. So just to warm it up, tell us about the institution.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously Tata Steel was the original Make in India story. It was set up in 1907, right? And, that was when nobody in India knew how to make steel. So it was, in some sense, India's first multinational also, because at that time, for the first 30 years of our existence, we had Germans, Americans, British, Welsh, all working in Jamshedpur, which was at that time a forest, and building a steel plant, right? So it's a long history. I think we've come a long way. Steel was seen as something fundamental to the development of any economy. So we've come a long way, and more importantly, we've survived the last 114 years. We've been through 2 pandemics. Not many companies can say that. And we've been through 2 world wars and supplied a lot of steel for those world wars as well. So I think we've been through a lot. But the reason why we are still around is we keep transforming ourselves. We keep looking at the context and our relevance and reinventing ourselves.
Very inspiring. But I'm sure there were many scars and many stars in this journey. Share some of them and how it happened.
For Tata Steel or more recently?
In your journey, let's go with that.
Yeah, I think we're never short of scars. I think we probably had more scars than stars, right? Because it's a global industry, and a lot of the industry is supported by governments across the world, right? Whether it's a government like China or whether it's a government like USA, right? I mean, the US leadership, whether it was Biden or Trump, was not allowing Japan to acquire a steel plant in the US, right? And now you have tariffs. So it's an industry like agriculture, which is politically very relevant. Typically, blue-collar workers in the steel industry are amongst the best paid blue-collar workers. So it's always had relevance to policy, politics, etc. It's a global industry, value chains spread across the world. So anything which happens anywhere has an impact directly or indirectly. Even in the last 10 years, if I were to look at big events, it's a very regulated industry. So iron ore mines, which we've been operating for 100 years, were closed in 2013-14 because of some regulatory changes. Then 2015-16, we had China exporting a lot of steel when it slowed down. Then you had the pandemic. Then more recently, again, what we're going through just now. So we've had multiple challenges at different points in time. But I think for companies like us, industries like us, it's more about how do you not waste a crisis? How do you use a crisis to make yourself stronger? Because it's a cyclical business. It's a capital-intensive business. So you will go through these down cycles. It's about not getting overexcited in an up cycle and not getting too depressed in a down cycle. So I think we learn to handle the scars. I think it brings the teams together, hopefully helps us become more resilient for the next down cycle. So we've had many of these, and that's fine. Yeah.
So in between, you had several acquisitions. There was a phase you went through. What was the experience over there?
So that was also a great journey, because we've had a mixed outcomes with acquisitions. You know, when we grew inorganically outside of India between 2005 and 10, we had some hits and misses. You know, we acquired Nat Steel in Southeast Asia, what is Tata Steel Thailand in Thailand, and then the biggest of them all was Chorus. So it was a mixed bag. And then we had the global financial crisis, so made some of these acquisitions look a bit expensive. But more recently, we acquired in India, and I think that story has been great because we acquired different companies. We acquired Bhushan Steel through the IBC route, so that was one way of acquiring. We acquired Usha Martin steel business through bilateral discussions, and more recently, we acquired Nilachal Ispat, which is a public sector company, steel plant closed for 3 years. And all three have been great success stories for us. Different cultures, different challenges, but I think the team has done a great job of turning around these companies, integrating it with Tata Steel. 2 out of the 3 of them are merged. The third one will also get merged with us. So in India, we've had a good story. We've pretty much doubled our capacity through inorganic growth in the last 5-6 years.
Great, and truly inspiring again, and thanks for bringing us on the global. It was one of the first few industries that truly went global out of India, along with IT, of course. Uh, so let's come to the topic of the day, right? And I'm saying look backwards, like don't go into AI as yet. Early days when you took the first steps in building Tata Steel's IT backbone, right? And I'm sure this is early 2000 maybe when it really started. What were the bigger, cultural or operational hurdles in introducing that technology? And, it was a legacy-heavy industry. It was the biggest brick and mortar we've seen.
So I think in some sense our digital journey actually started in the late 90s. We were one of the first large manufacturing companies in India to implement SAP at that time, 97, 98. In fact, SAP Holdings used to talk about Tata Steel. But I think a lot has happened in the last 8-9 years because we had to change faster because the world was changing fast around us. We saw a great opportunity because a typical process industry or a steel plant generates an enormous amount of data. And oftentimes you only capture a fraction of that data and you only use a fraction of what you capture. And if we've been able to drive so much of improvement by just looking at a fraction of the data, then it tells you what you could do if you had a lot more ability to capture and use data. So I think that journey started, but it's as much a technology journey as a cultural journey, right? So you need to get the leadership team invested in it. We did a lot of reverse mentoring in 2014, 15, 15, 16, I think. We built our capabilities. We got Jayanto, who's here from TCS, to join us because he gave us a different perspective, outside-in perspective. We invested hugely in building the infrastructure because we operate in some of the most remote locations in the country, our mining locations, sensorization, etc. So the infrastructure built, the capability building. We set a 2 billion goal of cost takeouts so that there was something very specific that you were chasing. It's not a nice thing to do. We had a lot of ideation to do that top-down and bottom-up. So workers on the shop floor saw the value of technology to make their life easier rather than see it as a threat to lose their jobs. So then they participated in it. They were invested in it. So I think it's important in large organizations to get that investment at the senior levels, at the operating levels, so that the journey happens by itself, and it's business-led. It's not an IT project, it's business-led. So we've had this journey, and I think our efforts have been recognized. I think 3 of our sites, the one in Netherlands, and our oldest site in India, which is Jamshedpur, and our newest site in India, which is Kalinganagar, all 3 have been recognized by the World Economic Forum as digital lighthouses because of the way we have digitized operations. Today we have a lot of remote operations. We are separating out the physicality of it so that you can operate a plant from, you don't need to be sitting in the plant to run the plant.
So early 90s, where did the inspiration come from? And who was your benchmark at that?
At that time, I think it was more mid-90s. I don't remember who was a benchmark, but not too many companies had implemented SAP in India at that time, right? So, but Tata Steel has always had this little bit of that pioneering spirit, and so when it was felt at that time because we were growing, early 90s to mid 90s or late 90s was more about survival. The Indian economy had opened up. When I joined the company, we had 80,000 people. Today, we have globally 78,000 people making 15 times the volume of steel that we used to make then. So, so a lot of the restructuring happened, particularly in India at that time. So once we came to late 90s, we knew that we had a little bit of, we had the license to invest in building capabilities for the future. So there was an initiative at that time called modernization, both of the plant and of the mind. And it also involved technology. So that's how that journey started. And in 99, I think we implemented SAP and not looked back since.
So while you were doing this, the Indian IT industry was just about starting. In fact, after that,
Absolutely,
Y2K.
absolutely.
So how did you see it, and how do you see that span
No,
in the
it's
last
been,
20 years, 25 years?
of course, we lost a lot of engineers who should have otherwise joined us. So that apart, I think a lot of, obviously, you know, the IT industry has really done everyone proud. You know, I think, I remember in the 90s, you know, I lived outside India for about 5 years in the 90s, early 90s, and at that time, trying to be an Indian supplier in the global markets was always tough. True. Nobody wanted to meet you. We had no reputation of being reliable, and it was even difficult to get an appointment, right? That used to be the... But by late 90s, thanks to the IT industry, India, people started looking at India differently, right? And I saw that change. You know, there was a lot more respect for the capability of India as a supplier, either of services or products. So the product side piggybacked on the services side, but I think the IT industry helped change brand India, and which is good. All of us benefited from that journey. But at that time, yes, like I said, late 90s, in fact, we even lost a lot of our people, our sales guys, who were not used to using computers, left Tata Steel because they couldn't deal with you know, SAP and things like that. They were typically a 50, 55-year-old guy who never used a computer, and suddenly you say you can't do sales unless you use a computer. People left us. So we went through all that. But of course, we've come a long way since then.
That's true, and we've been discussing that technology may lead to job losses, especially that's a hot topic right now, though none of us believe in that. What was your experience with that looking behind?
So I think the nature of jobs changed, right? When I joined Tata Steel in 1988 in the marketing and sales division in Tata Center in Calcutta, the biggest room had the typists, right? So if you wanted to send any letter, you had to go give them the handwritten one, and if you were senior, you would get it immediately. If you were junior, you got it after 2 days, right? So you just waited to send that letter and things like that. So that whole room vanished, right? Then you had secretaries who would type. That whole set of people vanished, right? So there are jobs which are gone, but there are new jobs which are created.
That's true.
Right.
Okay, so let's get forward looking from here. Today, what role do you see AI playing in steel in various aspects of your business, right? From administration to production to supply chain management, etc. Customer engagement as well. Where do you see this going in, and how are you implementing that?
Yeah, so I think we see it end-to-end huge opportunities, right? Like we have a long value chain. We are one of the biggest mining companies in the country. We are one of the biggest steel companies in the country. And we have a very strong downstream presence in services, solutions, downstream value addition. So we have a very long value chain. So there's a huge opportunity from a cost point of view to optimize across the value chain. So we have a lot of AI models running on that, on the cost optimization side. The second part is a customer experience part of it, where again, we have what we call the traditional B2B business, where we sell to auto companies and oil and gas companies, etc. Or we sell to the SMEs, or we sell to what we call the retail markets. We have, you know, we sell about 250,000 tons of steel every month to people who buy 1 or 2 or 3 tons of steel to build homes, right? So it's a huge, so we have different subsegments, and at least for the B2C side, there's a huge opportunity to understand those consumers better. We've created interfaces today that the order generation process is now digital, I mean online. We have customers in the US and Southeast Asia and Middle East, Indian diaspora placing orders for supply of steel in Kerala or Bihar or something. You know, they're sitting there and ordering steel for their houses which are being built or for their parents or whatever. So you're opening up a new market. So I think there's a lot of work going on the customer, and then you get a lot of insights based on the data that is generated. So I think there's a lot happening on the customer side. There's a lot happening on the manufacturing excellence side. There's also a lot happening on the functional excellence side. Safety is an important area for us. So having a lot of cameras, doing video analytics, getting the insights from that, being able to red flag potential risk areas, all are hugely beneficial. And internally, for internal services like HR, etc., also you can use AI to, again, deliver a better experience for employees. And even from an L&D point of view, there's a lot that we can do. Because we have multiple generations of employees, and how do you institutionalize the knowledge that they have with them and keep it within the company? So I think there are multiple dimensions of this that we've used. And today we have, I think, about 550 AI models running in Tata Steel. I think 70% of it is in the operations and manufacturing side, and the others are in the customer-facing side or in specific functional areas.
How do you look at responsible AI in your space?
Sorry, how do you?
Responsible AI, about policies around it, about
Yeah.
security and safety around it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot around that we define. We try to define that. It's obviously something that we are learning and evolving as we go along. I also think we have a lot of opportunity in using AI in sustainability. We have a lot of opportunity in using AI for the CSR work that we do. For instance, we dig a lot of ponds in different places, because digging a pond in a village really changed the economy of that village.
Correct.
And to decide where to dig that pond, today using a lot more data, you can choose the right place so that it's there for good. It's not something that you've dug in the wrong place and runs out of water. So things like that. So you can use a lot of data and AI to also do a lot of good, using AI. Yeah.
I'm very cognizant of time. Coming to the most important topic, which was for discussion in these 2 days, we believe that implementation of AI, one, needs to be a C-suite agenda, no doubt about it. Two, it needs to be looked at holistically. And third, you need to take your people along, because the work, the worker, the workforce, everything changes as you bring in this technology. How are you looking at it? And
no, that's true. I think I look at it as any change management program, right? Unless the leadership is invested in it, it's not going to happen, right? You need to also check, typically, how long does it take? In the Tata Steel context, because we are a large company, we know that a typical change management program will take 3 to 5 years for it to become a habit, right? Then it's no longer a change management program. It's the way you work, right? So we went with that mindset. We said that, okay, within 3 to 5 years, we need to make it the way we work, right? So now to drive it from the top, like I said, so we had a lot of visits from our senior leaders to the west coast of US, to Berlin, to go see companies who've done AI, used AI a lot. Other industries, like maintenance practices, learn from the airline industry, who use a lot of data to decide when to, let's say, fix an engine rather than have unplanned downtime, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot you can learn from different industries. So we did a lot of that. And like I said, we set goals. So it's not just a nice thing to do. We said 2 billion cost takeout in the first 5 years or so. We also, like I said, had ideation from people down the line. So a shop floor worker would say, hey, if I don't need to walk to the control room to check the temperature in the furnace, that helps me. So you can allow that. Somebody who's in a pipe plant and getting pipes loaded, which is sold by piece, people used to put straws in the pipe to count how many pipes are there in the bundle. One click and you know that, right? So the minute they see their life is changing for the better using technology, they're supportive of it, right? So that's how you then get down to the floor. Different stakeholders have different concerns. You need to address that, right? Reverse mentoring was done because a lot of senior guys didn't know much and didn't want to accept that they didn't know much, right? So when you do reverse mentoring, you're sitting with somebody much younger. Typically, we've had two benefits of that. One is typically people below 30 who knew more about technology than the people below 50 at that point in time. And secondly, the employee engagement scores were the lowest for the people below 30 in the company. So it gave us an opportunity to bridge the leadership with the younger employees. So it worked both ways. Employment engagement scores went up. The senior leaders asked questions which they were embarrassed to ask in public. And it helped. I also had a reverse mentor, and it was a wonderful journey. So we did these things. And then once everyone's invested in it, today I don't think we don't see digital and AI as part of a change program. And as I said before, it's business owned, business led. IT is there to support. It's not an IT project, right? So all that. We also did some structural changes, like we had automation separate, we had the IT team separate, we had the digital value acceleration team separate. We brought it all together so that they work seamlessly across some of these functions, which are so important in an industry like us.
So what's your learning method as Narendran, the individual? How do you keep abreast with what's happening in the technology world?
Oh, try to read, I try to listen, I try to learn from a lot of the youngsters, including my daughter. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn. I'm really happy you've been, I think, for a steel company to be invited to NASSCOM, we must have done something right. Yeah?
No, no, you're very welcome anytime. What's one application that you use all the time and you believe that it makes your day or helps your day, for example, today?
Oh, I can't, for me, not an application, but for me, the iPad is my, work, entertainment, music, everything. So if I lose it or something, that's to me the most used device, more than my phone. Yeah.
So, minute and a half to go. Any message for these are business leaders from the IT world who are taking the entire world forward. Any message for us?
No, I think keep learning. I think I've always said you need to be a student all your life. And I think the technology space ensures that you're a student all your life because things change so rapidly. I think it's important to have your own routines and mechanisms in place to keep learning. And I think that's the only way we can stay relevant.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure, and it's been great. Thank you so much.